My name is Nancy Wallace. I'm co-chair of the Montgomery County Green Party. I was a candidate last year. I've been on the board of directors of an NGO, a women's group, working on this issue for 4 years. First of all, I'd like to clarify that Section 704 of the 1996 Telecommunications Act does not preempt on the basis of health and safety. It mentions the word environment, that's all, and the implied conflict preemption of one court system has, in fact, brought that in so that it sweeps it in case of a possibility that environment includes health and safety. Other courts, excuse me.
No, I'm going to read the law. I'm going to read the law since you accused us of not telling the truth. I'm going to read the law and everyone else can determine.
Okay, let's.
All right.
Let's let Nancy go ahead and finish.
No, I've read Section 704. And another court system in the U.S., another circuit, has in fact not gone along with the implied conflict preemption. So what I would like to say tonight to the people here and to the county executive office is we would request, we being myself and others in the Green Party that are concerned about this, it violates the Green Party's platform on precautionary principle, which means you don't roll out technologies until there have been adequate studies. And there are about 10,000 scientific and medical studies now showing the harm of this type of radiation. It's very clear. It's at bioinitiative.org, among other websites. And every other Western country and Israel are reducing their wireless. They're taking it out of schools. In Israel, it is now illegal to expose any child from 0 to 6 years of age to any wireless in any school system. And from 6 years to 12 years of age, a maximum of 1 hour per day. This is a killer radiation, and 5G, the ultra-high frequency, is the basis for the Department of Defense active denial system, which is a ray gun. You can look it up on YouTube, active denial system, and that's what this is designed for in terms of the 5G infrastructure. So what we would like to request is that the county file a suit against the Federal Communications Commission requiring them to carry out their statutory authority to regulate this, since they have refused for the last 20 years to look at any new medical studies. They've refused the American Academy of Pediatrics request 4 years ago to open the regulations and reevaluate, and that we do not implement any additional or any small cell technology in Montgomery County until that lawsuit has reached its conclusion.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I want to ask in the booth if we could put up slide 23, which has the federal restrictions on managing antennas, because there it has the language. I want to let people know, and if you do go to the website, in January, the county executive, when he sent a letter to the commission asking them to address the RF issues as an appendix, all of the various studies that people had sent into us, whether they were on rats, they were in foreign studies, there were other ones, all those studies we included as an attachment. And we noted to the FCC that this is the problem of not exercising leadership on this issue, because there is other information out there, and that's why people are asking. So this section here is what it is. And I did say health effects, and it is environmental effects of that. Jerry, did you have anything else that you wanted to?
I'd like to read the actual statute because I think we were told that it didn't say it. And and if you want to take a note, this is 47 USC 332 C7B 4, and it says no state or local government or instrumentality thereof may regulate the placement, construction, and modification of a personal wireless service facility on the basis of the environmental effects of radio frequency emissions to the extent that such facilities comply with the Commission's regulations concerning such emissions. So I need to I need to apologize to the Carrie, I guess it is, right, for Nancy, for my reaction. I just we're not telling stories here. I mean, this is a limitation, and the gentleman's question is something that you're right, that perhaps the courts will resolve someday as to what's, the primacy of the different rules. But it's clear cut that if we're preempted, courts have made it very clear that that's what the federal law would be primary. Now, all these other ideas are things that that the county is pursuing. We're just trying to be as honest as possible as to what our limitations are. And again, I mean, we represent lots of local governments around the country. Not everybody has an engineering firm on staff that can help us try to make decisions about, well, lots of folks don't want the towers being very tall, but if we can show that by making it taller, we reduce the exposure level, the chronic exposure level that some folks are worried about. I mean, it's things that we're trying to work within the parameters, and we continue to try to push the parameters to have the commission do the job that it should do.
Okay, we are at about almost at our halfway point. So let me take just a couple more questions, and then I'd like to move on to other issues. If we run out of those questions, we can come back to this issue. Okay, so in the back of the room here, in the brown sweater standing up.
Thank you very much. My name is Marcy Pollan. I've testified at the FCC, and I can talk about that later. I think it's a non-starter to invoke the FCC in this discussion, quite frankly, having had personal experience there and having 5 people from the commission approach me having not the slightest idea of the impact not only of 5G, but of 4G or any of this technology, okay? Let me try to paint you a brief picture. If you look at blood cells, they should be round and individuated and floating freely in the plasma, right? They have a charge. Cell phones have a charge. That's why cell phones are called cell phones, I think, because they work very similarly. They carry an electromagnetic charge. If that charge is disrupted, that's the foundation of ill health, okay? So 10,000 studies have been done on this issue. They've been done for decades, suppressed by industry, which now controls the state of California, and that legislation has been passed now that prevents any kind of lawsuit happening in the state of California. That's going to happen here, because we're having a very civil and very mannerly discussion about a lethal technology that's designed to have that level of impact in our lives. When you start putting these things, when these units are put up in the county or anywhere in this country, this shatters DNA. 5G technology will shatter DNA, and there's no curtain, there's no wall that's going to prevent that from happening. There are no subsidiary protections or issues that we can discuss that's going to solve the problem on that level. This is just the reality of the situation, and it's provable under the microscope. If you look at blood under a microscope, within 15 minutes, not even holding a cell phone, for people who have a lot of exposure to cell phone technology, even just Wi-Fi in the house, if you look 15 minutes after exposures, the blood cells begin to coagulate. They begin to stick together, and when they're stuck together, they cannot transmit oxygen or nutrients to the tissues. And when the tissues are not being nourished, then the organs become ill, and then that leads to a diagnosis of symptoms and a diagnosis and treatment when that's a whole other discussion. But there's no middle ground in any of this, okay, quite frankly, and I think many of us are aware of that here.
Okay. In the interest of time, since we're reaching the halfway point, what I'd like to focus on are there questions other than RF, and try to go around and do a few of those. Yes, sir. Why don't we come on up front? Susan's getting her steps in today.